Hello, this is episode 12 of this podcast. This is the case of Bradley Murdoch, the Australian man who was convicted of killing Peter Falconio and trying to abduct Joanne Lees. This episode is called The Outback Mystery. Bradley Murdoch was born on the 19th of February of 1958 in Northampton in Western Australia. He had two older brothers and parents, his mother Nancy, who worked as a hairdresser, and his father Colin, who worked as a mechanic. The family lived in Northampton, and when Bradley Murdoch, their youngest son, was 12 years old, they moved to Perth. Bradley was quite a few years younger than his brothers. They were 11 and 14 years old when Bradley was born. When Bradley Murdoch was 15 years old, he left school and moved back to his previous town to live. He would very quickly become involved in criminal activities, however. He would also go on to meet and then marry a woman called Diane in July 1984, and they went on to have a son together. It was not long after having a child together that the couple separated in 1986, reportedly due to domestic violence which Bradley had committed against his wife Diane. Bradley had his own trucking business for a few years, but he was ultimately declared bankrupt in 1983. He would later find a job as a truck driver for another trucking business. It was while Bradley Murdoch was working as a truck driver that he began to traffic drugs as well as other illegal activities. He was also known to have a gun. He was caught smuggling cannabis and served time in prison. By the late 90s and after his release from prison, he went to live in a place called Derby and continued with his drug running activities, it has been alleged. Bradley Murdoch already had a very extensive criminal record before he became involved in murder. In 1980, at the age of only 21, he received a suspended sentence after he was convicted of causing death by dangerous driving after he had hit and killed a motorcyclist. In November of 1995, Bradley Murdoch began a 21-month sentence for a drunken incident where he had shot at people who were out celebrating at a football match in the Kimberley area of Western Australia. It has been since reported that Bradley Murdoch was known to be racist by many of his peers. Bradley Murdoch was released early from his 21-month sentence after only serving 15 months of it. In 2003, he was charged with 7 counts of abduction and rape, but was acquitted on all of the charges. This was against a mother and her daughter, but he was exonerated. Along with his sentence for drug smuggling, he had already carried out a lot of crimes over the years. It was shortly after being acquitted on the rape and abduction charges that Bradley Murdoch would be implicated in the murder of a man called Peter Falconio. Peter Falconia was a British man. He was born on the 20th of September of 1972, and he was the third of 4 sons born to Joan, his mother, and Luciano Falconio, his father. He had lived in a place called Hepworth, which is in West Yorkshire in England, while he was growing up. Hepworth is not far from Huddersfield. Peter Falconio would work in the building trade when he left school, but decided to study for a degree at Brighton University